So the first part of this presentation, and Ed can only join us for about half an hour or so, we are going to go over the Four Seasons produce implementation of the 50001 Ready using the 50001 Navigator system. Once we've heard from Ed and Randy, we'll have a brief overview of some of the other resources that are available to utilities and implementers and other folks that we've helped develop in terms of resources and tools. So I'm going to hand it over to Ed Birch now.
Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Ed Birch from Strategic Energy Group. We're based in Portland, Oregon. Strategic Energy Group provides support to organizations in North America that want to adopt a continuous improvement process that focuses on energy efficiency. We're very excited to see the USDA issue the 50001 Ready program and eager to get our participants to be recognized as a national leader. When the DOE issued this, the first name that came to mind for us was Four Seasons Produce out of Pennsylvania. Four Seasons Produce is a high-performing organization that participated in a program sponsored by PPL Electric Utilities, which is based out of Allentown, Pennsylvania, just north of Philadelphia, about 90 miles. You know, if you know a little bit about energy management program, there's two main acronyms: Strategic Energy Management and Continuous Energy Improvement. Next slide, please. So the PPL program was a 12-month program where we engaged 10 manufacturing plants. They had to have a total energy spend of $500,000 a year or more. The program was administered through group workshops located at a central location, group webinars, and also on-site meetings. Next slide. Here you can see our activity calendar and some of the deliverables. The program activity calendar provided training and consulting support for each of the 12-month engagements. The deliverables were in alignment with 50001 Ready components, things like an energy management assessment, establishing effective teams, developing an energy profile on energy sources and strategic or significant energy using equipment, also performance metrics. So each month we met and worked on a 50001 Ready requirement. And of course, this was before 50001 was rolled out. Next slide, please. So I was excited to bring the 50001 Ready program to Four Seasons because I knew they were high performing. Their organization constantly focuses on excellence, sustainability being one of many of the inherent things in their culture. Our engagement with Four Seasons Produce ended in 2012. So basically, we picked someone that we haven't worked with since 2012. That was 5 years ago. But not to my surprise, the program was in effect and savings continued. And we'll talk a little bit about it. And the other thing that was exciting for us was to see that the investment in the earlier years on a continuous energy improvement process stuck at this organization. So, and we'll talk a little bit about that next. Next slide. So this is a regression model results from Four Seasons the first year. The red line there is the baseline here, and then blue line, downward sloping, is savings. And they had achieved about 3.5% savings in year one. You have to realize that probably the first 6 or 8 months was putting the infrastructure in place, building a regression model, doing energy scan for savings activities, getting the energy team in place. And so 3.5% savings is pretty good, considering you didn't have a whole 12 months to focus on that. Next slide, please. Better yet is this takes a look after we backed out of the program, and Randy and his team focused on this. We can see the results. We had, basically what's interesting, we had an increase in their production of 24%, but only experienced a 3.8% increase in energy usage. This all resulted in their kilowatt hour per case being reduced by 18.5%, from 51 cents per case down to 41.6 cents per case. If they would not have done anything, they would have used 10 million kilowatt hours, but they actually only used 8 million kilowatt hours. And that savings at 7 cents a kilowatt hour is worth $135,000 to them. So, you know, if you're out there wondering if this program is sustainable, yes, it is sustainable. And the savings end up to be pretty good, because we can see those savings percents there are pretty stellar. Very impressed with that. Next slide, please. So what are some of the key action items in a 50,001 Ready? And that was also in the continuous energy improvement process, was, did you establish an energy policy? And yes, they had established a policy. How did we reflect management commitment? That was through the policy, a program scope, establishing an energy team. Randy can talk about how his energy team was empowered. Energy mapping, that was helped them identify where energy was used and what their significant energy users were, or a supplier that created a significant energy use to them that they normally wouldn't have realized. So all the items that are some of the key action items for 50,000 Ready, for the most part, were addressed. And Randy will talk a little bit about some of the work he needed to do to go ahead and qualify. Next slide, please. So for Strategic Energy Group, we've probably on the industrial side have about 300 energy teams across North America, and that mostly would be US and Canada. And it was great when the US DOE came out with the 50,000 Ready, because it allowed our participants to get some national recognition for having a good energy management program in place. So we thought it was ideal for those organizations that were unable to pursue ISO 50001. So we felt that this was very valuable for the folks, and also valuable for us. It showed that our program, we had a well-defined, comprehensive program. Next question. So I think what I'd like to do is pass this over to Randy. And Randy is the Director of Facilities and Energy at Four Seasons Produce. And he can talk a little bit about what was it like after SEG left, and how they managed it, and what were some of the things that they needed to address in order to get the 50,001 Ready designation. So Randy, I'll pass the conversation over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Like Ed said, I'm Randy Goff, Director of Facilities and Energy, and the "and energy" was added onto my title back in 2004 when we built this facility here We're located in Southeast Pennsylvania. We operate a 266,000 square foot refrigerated facility, distribution center for fruit and vegetables. We distribute fruit and vegetables all across the Northeast. And in 2004, when we purchased this large facility and moved everyone into one building after being in 5 rental properties, we quickly realized that our energy spend was quite a bit more than the rental properties that we were in. So we started those savings initiatives back in 2004, and we really built onto that energy strategy from going through the CEI program with SEG. So after we were through that program, Ed then came back to us a few years later and introduced us to the 50,001 Ready program. And we thought that this would be a great asset to our existing CEI program. So we started working with and going through the 25 tasks that are outlined in the 50,001 Ready Navigator tool, which took us a few weeks to complete. There was a small group of us that were working on it, and it took a few weeks to get through those 25 tasks. So there was a few items that we had to develop internally that we did not have in place, like a internal audit schedule, life cycle cost assessment, energy consideration and design, and some calibration records, all of which we did not have in place prior to starting the program. But what was nice was that the Ready Navigator provided templates for us to use to develop these missing pieces. So that was a plus for us to get through that program. We also worked through the energy footprint tool, which is an Excel spreadsheet that tracks our energy consumption by source, factors in affecting energy consumption, specific areas of use in our facility. So we imported 3 years worth of data, including electricity, kWh, natural gas, heating degree days, cooling degree days, and our production data. So then this tool provided us with the energy footprint data that could easily be exported into DOE's ENPL Lite, which estimates the energy savings relative to relevant variables like production levels and weather. Our facility is a refrigerated facility, so weather definitely comes into play. The heating degree days, cooling degree days is the added data that we put in there, including our production. So now we have a wealth of energy information at our fingertips, which keeps us focused on our energy in the future. So in summary, we feel this ongoing engagement with the 50,001 Ready Navigator will help our organization identify no and low cost opportunities to reduce our energy costs and to drive continuous improvement in our energy performance in the future. So that's all I have. I guess if we have any questions.
Thanks, Randy. This is Paul Schaefer again. So what I'd like to do now is to unmute everybody. If you don't have a question, please mute your phone on your end somehow. And if you do have a question, please take turns asking them. So I'm gonna attempt to unmute everybody right now. Okay, good. If anybody has any questions, please speak up.
I think there's a question on the chat. Should I go ahead and read it for everyone?
Yes, please go ahead, Ari.
So the question is for Randy. Brian is asking, did you have a pre-existing Six Sigma related program? If so, how did you integrate it?
No, we did not have a pre-existing Six Sigma program at all. No.
So we've got another question on the chat. Kevin is asking, how much did behavioral changes reduce or help energy production?
I would say some. I think that's a pretty small percentage. A lot of our savings came through lighting retrofits, VFD installations. We did some envelope improvements around the facility, and sensors, CO2 sensors, occupancy sensors that were installed. So back in 2004, you know, this facility was built with not having a lot of controls on the energy side and actually no LEDs in the facility at all. And as of about a month ago, we are totally LED inside and out of the facility.
Randy, maybe I could build on that a little bit. I think one thing that was pretty interesting was we developed a regression model, and initially we saw, I think it was in May, a significant erosion of any savings, and usage was increasing. Maybe, Randy, you could talk about what the root cause was of that.
Yeah, that was one that was hard to find because we didn't know what happened, why our usage went up, and actually our production numbers were, you know, they were going up and not as high as percentage. And we determined that we were bringing in local produce from the farms, untreated as far as temperature goes. Most of our products come from all around the United States, all around the world, and it comes in a truck or a train, which is temperature controlled. But in the springtime and over the summer, we'll purchase local as far as close as across the street or across the field. And those farmers are bringing products in right off the field that are not to temperature. And when you have, you know, several loads of watermelon bins come in at not at you know, 50 degrees where they should be, but at, you know, 90 degrees, that tends to warm up the warehouse pretty quick.
So we've got 3 more questions on the chat, so I'll go one by one. So the first question is, are you considering ISO 50001 certification as the next step?
Yeah, that's something we're keeping our eyes on. We haven't pursued that directly just yet, but it is something that we're keeping on for the future.
Got it.
So the other question is, do you need a pre-existing SCM program in place to participate in 50001 Ready initiative?
For this to be the same,
I think we're getting some chatter on the back, and somebody's typing and talking. That makes it hard to hear the question.
Okay, I can. Yes, if everyone can. If they're don't have questions, please mute their phones so we don't get any background. So I'll read the question again. The question is, do you need a pre-existing SCM program in place to participate in the initiative?
I'll answer that. I would say you do not need it. Is it a benefit? Yes. I definitely think that we were able to complete the Navigator fairly quickly because of the CEI program that we already had in place. But it is, like I said earlier, that there's templates in the Navigator that if you're missing a certain piece, they provide the templates there for you to fill in and develop that program internally. So to answer your question, I would say no, you don't need to go through CEI program, but it definitely is an advantage to have that in place prior to going through the Navigator.
Okay. So next question, what was the process involved to develop the regression model? Who helped with this effort?
And I'll let you, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so SEG was the primary developer with that. We worked with Randy to collect 24 to 36 months of energy data, which we get from PPL Electric Utilities. And then Randy provided us with production numbers. We also used weather. I believe that's what we had in there was electric, gas, weather. I don't know that there were any other variables, right, Randy?
Yeah, just weather and production. Yep.
Yeah, so we worked on that, and then we ran for the 12 months, we ran a model, and they managed the model, and then every month we met to make sure we were getting the same results. And the other thing that happened during that process, we can get great graphs showing savings or losses. It's not really worth much unless you get the story. So we had an event log, and so we worked with Randy and his team to say, okay, we're seeing an inflection change. What do you think the energy team activities are or other activities are that are contributing that? So, for example, the watermelon, the local produce, we saw that it happened May 11th, and it probably took about 3 months of constant searching to find out what it was until we discovered there was a one main change that happened as they started bringing local produce in, and it's coming in hot. That was an additional load, but it wasn't obvious to us. It took us quite a while and a lot of resources to find that, working together with Randy. So that was the process of that we went through to build the model. So it's also on Excel. That was the other thing, was something that was good on Excel.
Okay. So next question, how long did it take to get 4 seasons to ISO 50001 ready?
I'd said a few weeks. I would probably think from the start to finish, about 6 to 8 weeks it took us. I mean, not somebody working at it full time. There was about 3 or 4 of us working together on it in different phases throughout that time. But I would say about 6 weeks max.
All right. So next question, are you monitoring the temperature and humidity levels of the produce that is coming in?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Few more questions. So next one, has 50001 ready helped you save demand, or KW, either for bill reduction or for generator peak saving, DR or environmental reasons?
All the above. We reduced our bill, obviously, from the utility. We also, we don't get peak demand charges per se, as far as extra charges for peak demand, but we have reduced our peak over this program. We are also involved in DR, demand response initiatives as well.
Next question, for production metric, was it total tons or pounds, or was it broken down by other categories and then pounds, tons for you? Our production data is cases, so we don't have we're not a manufacturer, we're not manufacturing anything. We're just a distribution center, so it's cases and pallets of product coming in and cases and pallets of product going out. So one case would be, an example, it would be a case of apples. You know, if a load of apples comes in, there's 22 pallets and there's 54 cases on every pallet. You know, you can do the math, and that's how many cases are on that load. So each case then is selected individually for our customers for the outbound that goes out to our retail customers. So we call it a throughput case. So it's the incoming cases divided by the outgoing cases, and that gives you a throughput.
Hi.
If I'd like to build on what Randy said, and also someone's typing in the background, we can pick it up pretty strong. But I think if you're building a regression model, one thing you want to connect to is the organization's financial statements. And so in this case, it was all about cases. And so we had to use this. We used the standard unit that was in their financials to build the model. And you want to think about that whenever you're building models. For example, if you're in the plastic industry, you're not going to get a finished good number to work with, you're going to have to deal with raw material consumed. It's not the best case, but that industry does not have a finished good, standard unit finished good. So that's a good tip. How do you connect it to the manufacturing statement? And you got to start with their standard unit that they use.
Okay. So we've got one more question. You might have explained this earlier, but the question is, can you just explain what the metric case is for people not in the produce industry?
Yeah, that's what I was just explaining about. Our products come in by the trailer load or by rail, and you know, on a tractor trailer, there's 22 pallets.
What do you mean?
And 22 pallets. So each one of those pallets would have, you know, 54 cases of apples on there. So each one of those cases each one of those cases of apples is what we consider a case.
Right. Yes.
I'm gonna mute everybody and unmute Ed and Randy here. We're getting too much background noise right now.
That's actually one of the suggestions on the chat.
Yeah, so it's a
read all the questions.
One of the things to also consider is, what in Randy's case is, we started to consider density because there's a wide range of products they had, and was it the density that was causing a change of mix, and the density of that product was causing the model to show some losses. Fortunately, we didn't have to go that route when we discovered that we're bringing hot produce in. And then as soon as we hit that, the model began to function as we expected it should.
All right, let's just take a break for 1 second while I mute everybody and unmute Ed and Randy. Give me 1 second, please. All right, Arian, are there any more questions in the chat?
Sure, we have, how much do we have? About 5 or 6 more questions.
Okay, let's go ahead and go through them if we can.
Sure. So next question, can you describe the relationship between your regression model that you use to see savings and any measurement of SEUs? Where are you tracking more specific systems to?
That's a good question. I don't know that I know the right answer for that.
Well, I'm thinking you had one big significant energy user, which was your refrigeration system, right?
Oh, the significant energy use, yes. Our refrigeration system by itself uses more than the whole rest of the facility as far as energy goes. So I think one of the questions that came across that you might not have read yet is about sub-metering. We had installed sub-metering prior to our CEI program and of course prior to the Navigator, but and we definitely wanted to look at, we have about 8 sub-meters in place, one being just on the refrigeration system itself, other one is banana ripening, battery charging for our forklifts, and then our packing equipment area. So we can look at those areas and those uses separately.
So next question, was the 6 weeks of work all internal labor, or did you utilize SCG to assist in the ISO 50001 ready effort?
I don't recall if I asked Ed, you had any questions during that process, but that 6 weeks was all mostly internal, and it wasn't a constant 6 weeks of 3 people. It was 2 hours here, 2 hours there. We would set a couple meetings aside along the time we were doing that to group and to place the tasks. But it was a few hours a day, I would say, over the 6 weeks.
So Randy, this is Paul. Just to jump in here, you already had an established energy management system prior to going through the 25 tasks of a navigator. So you were using that more to go back and double check and make sure that you really had everything in place, right? So
Correct.
so if an organization or a facility was starting from scratch, it would take more than 6 weeks, correct?
It would. It depends how much time and resources they can apply to it. I mean, you know, I had thrown that 6 weeks out just guessing because I didn't really, you know, start the program and then, you know, stick to it every hour of the day and then until I was completed. So just thinking about the hours that I spent on that, I would say it would probably be a 6 week time. And I think that's probably maximum.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think that for Randy, this was a good part of a continuous energy improvement process, is that on a periodic basis, you go through a plan to check act, so you review and revise your program. And so I imagine they updated their energy policy, their program scope. So they had these things in place, but they weren't under any mandate that they had to formally review the program and update it. So that's what.
Right.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's definitely correct. That was it gave us a refresh of our existing CEI program. Yep.
Well, so the next question is about submetering, which was briefly discussed. So I'll reread the question. If you guys want to add any comments. So were any major loads being submetered? And besides lighting, what were some of the significant ECM measures that were implemented?
Yeah, like I said, we have about 6 submeters. Refrigeration system uses the most out of all those. Battery charging is an area that we saw. That's where we actually could see where we were peaking during the day, is when it was hot out, the refrigeration system was running strong, and then about 3 to 5 p.m. every day, we would get this peak usage. And after looking through the submetering information and looking at that 3 to 5 p.m. time period, we realized that that was the start of our second shift. And the start of our second shift is a lot of selectors using single pallet jacks and wanting a fresh battery, excuse me, before they get started on the shift, even though the battery wasn't really dead. So we had a lot of battery changing. So when the battery got changed, the old one got plugged into the charger, and then up goes our peak. So we've since then, since we realized that, we were able to spread out that time, not to have our peak happening between 3 and 5. They spread that out throughout the evening now.
Okay. So next question, did you treat different products separately, since apples versus lettuce may have different heat capacities?
No, we don't. Like I said, 95% of our products that we receive into the building are already at temperature of the same temperature that it's going to be stored at. So there's no heat gain. It's just over the local season where we're bringing in local product that happens. So no, we're not treating, we're obviously keeping the temperature in the coolers different for apples than we are bananas, but our temperature ranges in the facility range from 34 degrees up to 55 degrees, depending on the product.
All right, next question. Do you now have a way of pre-cooling produce before it enters the main warehouse?
No, we don't. Other than just receiving it and placing it into a storage trailer to cool down, we do not have pre-cooling capabilities here.
Okay. Next question. Did you receive any financial incentives from local utility?
Yes, we did. Several, if not mostly all of the lighting retrofits that we've done over the years, we received incentives for. Also, we installed some ECM motors, which is a high efficiency motor. We did a retrofit for all of our evaporators in the coolers a few years ago. That was we received a rebate from the utility for that as well. So yeah, we've tapped into that, what's called Act 129 here in Pennsylvania. We've tapped into that quite a bit, every chance we could.
And I think the other thing to note is PPL, electric utilities, also provided funding for our consulting services. So they get 12 months of consulting paid for that. So that was in lieu of an incentive. Now, was there a quarterly incentive paid, through us? I don't think that was on the program there. I don't think there was like $1,000 incentive on some of the PPL programs we had that, but I don't think so on this one.
No, we didn't have that.
So we've got two more questions. Does your regression model capture or reflect all savings initiatives, or was it adjusted to separately account for new LEDs and new VFDs?
Yeah, the slide that had the graph on, and then you saw the yellow lines that were going vertically on the graph, those were points of where we would have our savings initiative. So if we would be doing a lighting retrofit in May of 2013, we would note that on the regression model so that we would know that, we see this dip. Well, what's that dip for? That was because we did a lighting retrofit. So we tried to include as many of those as far as major retrofits that we've done, VFDs, lighting, ECM motors. I know that one we had placed in there because it was a pretty large savings. We tried to capture all that in the model.
I think another point on the model, not only documenting the capital, but if they had a compressed air leak initiative or a shut it off campaign, trying to dial the lights down, or they were changing settings on refrigeration, those would have been noted on the event log also, so that we could see what the non-capital activities were, what their impact was.
So moving forward, will you rely on the Navigator tool / 50001 Ready, or will you maintain your current CEI program, or both?
Actually, both, but more because the Navigator has a little bit more information as far as the new programs that I talked about earlier that we develop out of the Navigator. We'll continue to use the Navigator. We have to reattest, I think, every 2 years or maybe 3 years. I'm not sure, but we are continuing to use the Navigator on a regular basis.
Okay, you've got a few more questions coming in. I don't know, Paul, if you have time to go, but I'll keep reading them. So stop me if we're going over. So the next question is, did the utility incentivize any portion of the 50001 Ready program?
No, they did not.
Okay. And then there's a follow-on question, which might be related to an earlier one, which says, or the results from implementing 50001 Ready program. I'll skip that. So next question, did you use the Navigator's capability to assign tasks to team members?
Yes, and specifically areas that we did not already have developed. I talked a little bit about the templates and the work that had to be done to build a program that we did not have. We worked with a few people here around the organization to complete those.
Okay. And last question, how did you maintain the engagement of the employees to stay focused on energy efficiency, rewards or recognition?
A little bit of both. We have what we call, originally was called a green team. We still call it a green team. It was based and built around sustainability and started with actually recycling. I have a electrical background. I come out of the electrical construction industry many years ago. And so my passion was around the electric side. And we combined that recycling sustainability initiative along with my electrical background. And we just started building on it with that. And we have a group of about on our green team is about 8 to 10 associates around the facility, all in different departments, coming from different shifts and different departments, and we just get together people that are passionate about saving electricity, saving the environment, recycling. You know, for example, we divert 98% of our waste, so only about 2% goes to waste to energy plant. So yeah, I think it takes a group of effort. I'm the energy champion, but it definitely takes more than one person to keep making changes and keep going forward and not let things get stagnant. So.
Okay, I think that was it. If we have no more questions on the chat box.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ed and Randy. That was very informative. We've got a second piece to this webinar. So this series of webinars is designed for program administrators, utilities, implementers, folks like that, and we wanted to let you know of some of the resources that AMO and Berkeley Lab has developed for you all to implement the 50,001 Ready program into your program. So could you flip to the next slide, please, Arjen? Yep. This information is located on the Better Buildings website. If you just Google 50,001 Ready and program administrator or utilities or implementers, you should be able to come up with this URL. So flip to the next slide. So what we've done is we've come up with 3 separate options for either program administrators or utilities or implementers to implement the 50,001 Ready concept into your program. And it can be, you know, whether or not you already have an existing SEM program or not. We have a couple of different options. Put the next slide, please. So option A is just directing customers to the AMO's 50,001 Ready program. Option B is, you know, supplementing your existing SEM program with the 50,001 Ready and the Navigator program. Or if you're adapting or launching a new program, you can include 50,001 Ready as part of the program. So we've actually got, we've developed separate utility program designs for each one of these. And those sample design programs lay out kind of the characteristics of the utility that might adopt them, the customer base, challenges that you might come across, and solutions on how you could use the 50,001 Ready program as part of your program. So for each of these, we've got various resources that you can access that gives you details on these 3 different options. Next slide, please, Arjen. And we also have developed a number of additional tools and resources that you can use with your customers, your end-use customers, in terms of how they would get started with the 50,001 Ready program. Got various slide decks that you can use and customize. And like I said, we've got these 3 options with sample utility program designs using the 50,001 Ready concept. And those are all available on the AMO website that we showed a couple slides ago. So any questions from anybody? on the materials that are available for you to use? Okay, good. Well, please check those out. And if you do have any questions, either contact the folks at AMO or at Berkeley Lab, and we can certainly get back to you with any answers. Are there any other slides, Ariane?
Yeah, there's just one more. Is the last one.
So yeah, this is just a rundown, I guess, of the first call that we had. So our plan is to continue to have these in the future, and for each of them, we're going to have interesting guest speakers like Ed and Randy to let you know how folks are implementing the 50,001 Ready program in various ways. So. See one question in the chat box, Ariane.
Yep, I can go. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure.
Are you considering co-branding ISO 50001 Ready with other utilities or others?
Yes, we are. So we've been discussing it with a number of organizations in the United States, and there will be a process for if interested parties either want to host sort of their own version of the 50,001 Ready program or co-brand it. Yes, there are ways to do that. One other thing of note is that both Mexico and Canada will be having their own 50,001 Ready programs in their countries. Their equivalent of the Department of Energy is working with the U.S. Department of Energy to license these materials, and they will be running their own separately hosted Navigator website in those two countries. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. Thanks everybody for joining. We will be having another one of these calls in the near future, and we'll be sending out a time and date invitation when we have it scheduled. One last chance for questions. All righty, thanks everybody for joining.